Good morning, Tony and Jenny. It's Monday and we're back after being gone
Yay.
for a week. Dennis, good morning. I'm going to click that and then see if, yeah, it doesn't say that it's not working, so
Yeah.
maybe it is. So, wow. So, marathon trip. I don't know if you've ever driven from New Mexico to Tennessee, but that's a drive.
Mm-hmm.
So we left after church on Sunday and we got into Oklahoma City about midnightish.
Yeah.
Well, that by the time we got to bed, I think
Yeah.
11 or so. Um, and then got up, left at 6 the next
Mm-hmm.
morning. Oh, Vicky, good morning. We left at 6 and got into Tennessee at 4:30.
Yep.
And we didn't dawdle. I mean, we
No, like it was like
yeah.
we ate sandwiches on the road.
The
So.
only time we stopped is for gas, and if we got something to eat, we
Mm-hmm.
ate it there. Um, Mike from Albuquerque. Wow. This must be the third Monday in September, which means he's there for a board meeting.
Mm.
Yeah. So cool. And then we did the conference. So the conference we checked in Monday night, and it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
from like 8 in the morning until
About
9 at
8.
night.
Yeah.
Yep, for a board meeting. And then we left Thursday at 3:30 ish,
Mm-hmm.
and we stayed in Texarkana. We took a little bit longer route, but um, we did get to go to Bucky's.
Yes, we did.
So
See, I'm wearing a new Bucky's
yeah,
shirt.
and
Little
your
sweatshirt.
your shoes match, although they can't tell.
Yeah.
So we got to Texarkana about midnight,
Mm-hmm.
and we got up and left at 6 that morning.
Yep.
And did our little stop at Bucky's, and then we had to go through Lubbock, get stuff for Hope, like groceries and stuff, drop her off,
Mm-hmm.
and you got home probably
It's about like
8:45 or
yeah.
something. Whew, so that's a trip. If you ever decide to drive to, actually we were just south of Nashville. If you ever want to drive to Tennessee, there's some driving. Dennis likes to drive, so we should have taken him.
Yeah.
He could have been our chauffeur.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a trip. So I don't plan on driving like that anytime soon again. But it was fun. We were talking right before we came on, so we listened to 2 audiobooks. Almost got finished with the second one. I finished
we
it
were so close
after we got back. So listen to audiobooks. That's a good way to pass the time on a long drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So really cool. We were at a kids conference, so lots of good stuff. But it sounds funny whenever I say that. Yeah, we went to a kids ministry conference. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
And we stopped at the Bucky's, Dennis in Royce City. So expect someone to drive a car into that in the next day or two, like happened last time. We're like, Dennis sent us because he took Hope and I there when we went, and he sent us a little clip that like 2 days, I think, after we were there or something, somebody drove a car into the Bucky's that we were at.
Oh my goodness.
So anyways, the town where I got my first ticket, Royce City, Texas. 16-year-old anyhow. So it was a kids ministry conference, but it's so much more than just kids ministry stuff. So we came back, you, Hope, and I all came back with loads of new ideas for tech and stuff like that.
Because the conference had different breakout sessions, so we tried our best to do take different.
Didn't always work.
Well, because it was, you'd walk in, like we would always get in like at least 20 minutes before our session started, and sometimes they were just completely full. So if they were, we would just like pull out our Kids Matter app and go, okay, I think this one looks really good. Right. Or we would text the other person, hey, which one are you?
So I don't know if you guys are much into this. So AI is like the hot topic these days. The most well-known one was Chat GPT. There are others though. Google is coming out with their own AI now. Wow. So and it sounds weird, but so Hope and I got to go to one. It was Courtyard Conversation, so it was more like a interactive discussion, and on how to use AI in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you guys have ever used Chat GPT, but you just go in and I learned a whole lot more about it because we've done it. We messed around with it. It's great for if you want to come up with a Facebook post advertising something and you're like, I got nothing. You type that in and it gives you tons of good ideas. The more specific you are, it'll like write the ad for you. You have to change it up.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I found, that you can do that, but then you can say, okay, that sounds good, but add the date, da 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 da, and it'll do that. It'll get better as you go. So learn some new ways to be able to use that. That's way cool. We also talked about the moral, ethical implications because if you don't know, so AI, what it's using is just all of the information that's available, but it doesn't cite any sources.
Right.
Now you can tell it to cite sources, and I think it will to an extent, but certainly the word's not coming to mind. Anyways, you can very easily get into plagiarism that way because it's not original with you. Right. It's not original with the AI. It can't think on its own. It's pulling information that it knows. So so it's good for social media posts, those kind of things, to get ideas. Hope has had fun with the Chat GPT. By giving it parameters on writing a song, it'll write like a love song or something. It'll write a love letter, and the more information you give it, the more specific it'll be. It's really kind of funny. So, but good for what we're doing, especially promotion, social media posts, stuff like that. It's it's way cool. But that's just like one teeny little thing. Planning Center, we've talked about, you guys, the app on your phone is called Church Center. So we're big into that, we're actually learning some more ways to do that.
Right.
To use that better. And what's cool about this conference is they don't send like,
like their assistants or anything.
Yeah.
It's like CEOs. It's like like the software people that are actually developed like Planning Center. Like so it's like the really like big people that in the companies.
So for Planning Center, the guy who does the breakout is the head of the department for product development. So you get the big guys. David C. Cook, which is a huge Christian publishing company. He wasn't able to be there in person, but the CEO is the one who did the breakout on that one.
Yeah.
And so you get big wigs. Even Brittany that we went to, Deeper Kidman.
Deeper Kidman.
It's only just a couple of people in her company, but she goes, "Well, I'm the CEO." Yeah, because I was in one of hers, and she goes, "I heard David C. Cook has like snacks and stuff." I said, "Well, that's because the CEO is doing the breakout." She goes, "Well, I'm the CEO." I said, "Well, you should get your executive vice president in charge of snacks. That is your husband, to bring your snacks." That's funny. It's really fun. Those kind of conferences are fun because you learn a bunch of new stuff. Just fun, exciting kind of thing.
Yeah.
Relaxing isn't the word I would use. If you guys have never been to a conference like that,
it's like crazy.
You blow and go. I mean, seriously, like 8 a.m. until 9 p.m.
Yeah.
We'd get out after 8.
We literally because we got a meal pass, which they provide lunch and dinner there. And so we would literally get out of our session, book it to the food line, get our food, and then book it back to the next session.
You didn't even really have time to eat.
Yeah.
You had to take it to your next breakout. Yeah, Vicky's been before. Fun conference. And a cool thing, it's not the reason you go to a conference, but they give away a Mini Cooper at the end of the conference every year. And this is the first year in the conference's history. I think they've been going for 8 years. I've been 3. That a man won it, because obviously there are a lot more women in kids ministry than men.
Well, and what we saw too is a lot of husbands were giving their wives the Kids Matter cash. So what they did was they had their own form of cash that was red, and it had Kids Matter on it. And it was kind of like Monopoly money is what it reminded me of. So you're supposed to write all your information on the back and then put it in the trunk of the Mini Cooper, and then that's how they would draw. And we saw like people with like stacks.
I don't know. They're just going begging for it all the
Stacks
time.
and stacks. And so I even saw a husband give his stack to like his wife, and she was just sit there on the floor just filling it out. And
so in this conference, this is the largest it's been. They haven't moved to a new venue. There were 2,844 attendees, plus 300 some, they call them ministry partners, but like vendors, plus the staff that it took to run it and volunteers.
Yeah.
So a lot of people. That was a lot of people. The worship was really, really good.
Really good.
It was a whole lot of fun.
They had a 12-year-old
I was going to say that
drummer.
A 12-year-old girl was their drummer, and she was amazing.
Awesome.
And the guy who was leading the worship is from a big church in Florida, I'm assuming, and I'm assuming it's a big church. And he said that's the best drummer he's ever worked with. So that was way cool. We had a surprise. Jordan Felice, who sings the song "Beloved." You probably would know it if you heard it. I'm not real good at knowing names of songs or people who sing them, but he came out and sang the song and told why he sang it. He actually wrote the song for his little girl, and then he has a book now too called "Beloved," and the picture on the front is a cartoony picture, but it's him and his little girl. So that was way cool. It was
really cool. And then they had some really good speakers. There's just it was really cool.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. So this week we're like not only trying to recoup, but we also have to like unpack all the stuff we learned. I told Hope and Hillary both. At one point you're gonna hit like information overload, and don't quit listening. Just don't try to process. Take as many notes as you can, and they're really good. They have a Facebook group page, and so a lot of the breakout session, the people are posting their notes, so we can go back and look. But to go back and kind of process through and find out how to apply all that stuff. That was fun. I think it's the best Kids Main conference, but I haven't been. So Lifeway does one called Etch, and that one is coming up, I think, in October.
Yeah.
I haven't been to that one. But huge. It's a whole lot of fun. I think Dennis said the driving was fun. I think that would be the fun part for him.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty fun meeting Miss Patty Cake.
Oh yeah, got to see. Hope got a picture with Miss Patty Cake. If you don't know who she is, she did.
Oh, when?
Yeah, we were coming out of that breakout session.
Oh, okay.
The one you and I were at the one before. It was when we were coming out, I think.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So Hope got her picture, and Hope watched Miss Patty Cake when she was little. It's funny. She's been around a long time. She has not changed at all. She's not aged.
No. She looks exactly like the same Miss Patty Cake that we watched on VHS.
So Hope sent the picture to her friend who also had grown up watching Miss Patty Cake. So that was a lot of fun. Yancey was there. You probably don't know who she is.
And I think what's really cool, like, about this conference is like all of these people that you grew up with, like in like the Christian world, like seeing them, like on videos or hearing their songs, like you got to really meet them like on a personal level.
Yeah, they're hanging out at their booth. You just go by and chat with them.
And so like I didn't realize it, but I did a session called like your or be like a childhood superhero. And so I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so I walked in and I was like, oh, that's Miss Patty Cake.
Because
her real name is Jean Thompson.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you don't know, and you're like, Miss Patty Cake.
Yeah, it was like, oh, okay. And so it was really cool because she talked about like why and how she became Miss Patty Cake. And she really just did it because at the time that her children were little, there wasn't anything like that. There wasn't someone teaching like Christian values or Christian songs. And so her husband is in the songwriting business. So she went to one of his gigs and one of his assistants was like, yeah, we're just going to throw all these songs away. And she's like, I'll sing them. Like I can sing them because she was an opera major. Like she was in theater and she was like, I'll do it. If no one else will do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool. So she sang a lot of her songs during the sessions. It was really fun.
Yeah, so cool. If you ever get a chance to go to something like that, it's worth it. It's a little overwhelming. And I used to go to conferences with a friend who came back depressed all the time. I'm like, why are you depressed? There's no way we can do all that. Dude, I don't try to do everything I see in the conference. I just find if I can find one thing, I'm happy.
And that
one thing I can bring back
actually and apply. A session I went to by accident was called "What Do We Do Now?"
Oh.
And so that was the last session that I went to on Thursday, and it talked about taking all of the information and applying it to your church, not making your church apply to all the information.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true, like, because there's a lot of stuff that we as a church can't do because the new phrase is medium. We're a small to medium church. We're not a mega church. And so it was.
Mike Walker and Bug Scuffle. He was in church yesterday. I don't know if you met Mike.
I wasn't at church yesterday.
You weren't?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You weren't feeling well.
I wasn't feeling well.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah. So it was, trying to like find like what you said, like one or two things to kind of apply to your church and to take away. And
I do that like everywhere I go for conferences. If I can just find like one thing, one of the best examples that I use, I went to a 3-day conference. It's Global Leadership Summit. And tons of, world-renowned speakers, people known around the world. And here's what I remember from a 3-day conference. Some things aren't problems to be solved. They're just tensions to be managed. And that's helped me out huge in ministry, because you're like, I thought we settled that. Why are we still dealing with this? I thought we settled it. And you get real frustrated, and then you realize, oh wait, that wasn't a problem to solve. That's just a tension. You're always going to have to, just kind of manage that tension as you go.
Right.
And one of them is for churches, the tension between missions there and evangelism here. There's not a formula.
No.
And you can't say, okay, it's 60-40 or 70-30 or whatever, 50-50. There's no formula. That's just always going to be a tension that you just manage. How much do you invest in missions there as opposed to evangelism here? And so if I can find one thing, if I can find two things, man, it was an extremely worth it conference.
Yeah.
And we got like lots of things. But you can't take 3 days of a conference and just totally translate everything over.
Right.
So here's one of the things, if you guys don't know this about me, Mike, I hope Mike knows this about me, and Vicky, they've known me a good while. Dennis has known me my whole life. So
yeah.
But I always want to learn. I don't ever want to quit learning. And I been here. This is my 20th year. Celebrate that in a couple of months. And I don't ever want to coast. I always want to see. So God, what are we going to be doing? I bought a mug there, and I think it's going to be our theme for the next year. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. But we constantly should be doing what we're doing, evaluating what we're doing, tweaking, making changes. And in fact, I really want the culture, the heartbeat of this church to be one of constant, people don't like the word change, but of constant adaptation. Now, one of probably the first message I preached when I came here 20 years ago was, we keep the message. The gospel is the gospel. Anything other than that's not the gospel. So you keep the message. The message won't change. That is timeless. You change your methods. The methods have to change. In fact, I think I heard you say something that you heard this last week. And if you guys haven't noticed, everything since 2020 COVID accelerated everything, and it's not slowed down any.
Yeah.
So I heard you say something that you heard. If you're still doing what you did last year, you're already behind.
Yeah.
That we have to constantly, we've got Gen Z goes from like 25 to 15 years old. 14 and under is Generation A, Alpha. And so we have to keep looking. The two questions that we have to ask is who are we trying to reach? And for me, that's who is in our community, and what's it going to take to reach them.
Right.
So we have to constantly change our message. Yeah. So lifelong attempt to acquire this. So you have to keep learning, keep adapting,
Yeah.
I just want change to be part of the DNA of this church.
Right. One of our speakers who's ahead of the MOPS.
Mothers of Preschoolers.
Yes. Which is now it's a mom co-op. Momco. She said something like that really like stuck with me. Like all of the like research, like even like 5 years ago, was that students who graduated high school, that they stopped going to church when they went to college. She goes, but that's invalid. The new research is showing that 12 and 13-year-olds are the ones that stop going to church, which is so shocking, like, but it's kind of like what you said, like we have to evolve, like we have to like move and change like what we're doing, because we're losing them at such a younger age than what we were. Because it used to be, once you graduate, like you have to like go to a ministry, you have to find a church, you have to get plugged in. But now it's like 12, 13, like that's the transition between elementary and middle school, like, and that's huge.
And I think it was Chuck Peterson, who works for Lifeway. He's the head of kids ministry for Lifeway. I think it was him that said this, that it's the reason for that is the millennials now are the parents of Generation Alpha. And what they're doing is they're letting their kids choose in a desperate attempt to connect with their kids. They'll ask their kids, what do you guys want to eat tonight? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And so the kids are making all those choices. What they don't realize is one of the effects of that is that doesn't stay limited in the kid's mind to just, I get to choose what I eat or where I go. Well, it goes into where I go. I get to choose whether or not I go to church. And we've noticed this change coming for a good while. Parents of 3rd and 4th graders are letting their kids choose whether they come to church or not. Now, not Sunday morning church, but our kids ministry. We run 60 to 80. I don't know what it is now.
It's about 70 a week.
70 a week, and our kids, that's pre-K through 5th grade. And those parents who are millennials, you're one of those. Hope's on the cusp. Those parents are letting their kids choose, and so they'll get to 3rd, 4th, 5th grade and say, I don't want to go anymore. And so they let them choose because they're letting them choose everything else. And so lots of unintended consequences from that. And those are things we have to keep informed on.
Right.
I forget the last name, but Janine, the lady who wrote the book on Generation Alpha. I hadn't heard of that until last year. I thought Gen Z was the last generation.
No, it's Generation Alpha.
The last identifiable generation. But Generation Alpha, totally different. There are just so many things about them we've got to learn.
Right.
And it's hard. I heard Andy Stanley say in the study that we're doing last night, he said he used to work with students. He said, I really have a heart for students, that is high school kids. He goes, but I realized in order to help them, I'm going to have to help their parents. So that's why I became a pastor.
Which is, you and Mom always say, like, when parents deem.
So here, and we stole this from someone else. If parents who view church as optional shouldn't be surprised when their children view Jesus as unnecessary.
Right.
So if parents portray to their kids that church is optional, they have to know that the next step for their kids is then Jesus is not necessary.
Right.
And Tom Rainer saw this coming. He was the president of Lifeway for a long time. He saw this coming a long time ago, and he wrote the book Essential Church. And what the premise of that book is, with some other things, the reason that kids are leaving between 18 and 23, I think it's it was 2 out of 3. I think it's more 3 out of 4 now.
Right.
But is that if the parents don't view church as essential, that to be a Christian, that the gathering of God's people is essential to be a walking Christian, then the kids are going to take the next step. Right. And that's why they're walking away. And so he said that Essential Church came out years ago, 10, 15 years ago. So anyhow, we've waxed it along. Thanks for listening to the rant. We're excited about the conference. It was fun. Getaway. Sorry we could not find a way to do Java and Jesus. It was an hour ahead. Yeah. So by the time y'all were at 8:00, we were starting the main session at 9 there. But anyhow, so this week I've got Jem on Wednesday and Paul on Friday, and we're going to be unpacking the message from yesterday, which was falling. And the big idea is falling down isn't the same as falling away. That just because we messed up doesn't mean that God has given up on us.
Broken crowns can still color.
I love that. Tony Colliers, who was the MC for the conference, that's kind of her ministry. She wrote a book called that. Yeah. Broken crayons still color. I like that. Yeah. God's not finished with us. Yep. Aren't we glad? Let me pray for you guys. Send you out into your week. Thanks for hopping in with us. Lord, thank you for your love. Thank you for the way that you work and move in our hearts. God, would you continue to use us? Would you continue to work in our hearts to change us, make us into the image of Jesus? And Lord, I pray that as you do that people would see, that they would notice, God, that you would use that as a way to open doors for us to be able to share the love of Jesus with them, the gospel, the good news that Jesus came to save us. And Lord, help us to do that in a way that brings you honor and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thanks for hopping on, guys, and we will see you on Wednesday. Every day I wake up, I'm not even retired, but every day I wake up, I got to remember, what's today? Yeah. Where am I supposed to be? Love you guys. We will see you on Wednesday.